Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of this new podcast that is going to be named Philanrodney. The name itself is obviously a play on words with philanthropy and my first name, Rodney, my full name being Rodney Weir. So, this is a podcast I've been kicking around for a while. With this being the first episode, I'm going to roll out some of what this podcast is going to be all about. I'll talk some about my story and some of the things that are going to be included. Pretty much, we'll have a guest for every episode talking about different topics and different angles of philanthropy. So I'm excited to be able to share stories and have people talk about just some things that people don't always think of when it comes to giving. Everyone has a concept of what it means to give, the fact that it's good to give, but they aren't always aware of everything that's involved and some of the decisions that go into it. So we'll be talking about all of that. My one of the key things to know is that as you listen, if you're a podcast listener, it's going to be very obvious, if it isn't already, which it probably is, that this podcast is not going to be scripted. So often you listen to different podcasts and it's clear that there's a script, there's something that's being followed, something that's very likely already been written out. You can just tell. This is going to be an honest, straightforward podcast with people coming in to talk, share stories, give their perspective, and it's going to be very down to earth. So I'll just say that about this podcast. One of the things that's going to be coming up consistently, something that I will share, something I will talk about, is what is going to be different about this podcast. This is philanthropy for non-millionaires. So this is philanthropy for the common person. I'm not someone that has millions of dollars to be able to spend on all kinds of things and just give my money anywhere to all these different causes. I'm really mindful of some of the choices that I made. And I've come to realize that, it's important, and I wasn't as aware of all of this early on, but we'll be talking more about that as we record more episodes. So I don't have a whole lot of money, but there's a lot of opportunities out there for philanthropy, for giving, for being involved in different ways. So it's important. And this is another key thing that you'll hear a lot. It's important to think about what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to get out of whatever it is that you're giving. If you go to some different organizations, you're going to be playing right into whatever it is that they are looking to do. It's really important to think about what it is that you want to get out of the donation that you're making, the resources that you're giving. It's really, really, really important to have that awareness and that concept. And you often hear about different organizations, and I've been fortunate that I haven't really had to worry about this, but just being aware of where the money goes. For a lot of organizations, that's really a key question. And that really also makes a connection to what it is that you're looking to get out of the donation that you're making. You obviously don't want a lot of the money to go to overhead, but even above and beyond that, if you're making a donation to some organizations, you want to be really careful about making sure that you know where your money is going and what it's being used for. That can be done in a number of different ways, with questions that are asked, with some information gathering. But once again, we'll be talking about that more as the podcast rolls out. So just to share a little bit about myself, I grew up in a small town in Southwest Michigan called Coloma. Went to high school, went on to the University of Michigan. And part of my story is the fact that I was in the Michigan band when I was at Michigan, and I ended up being the drum major of the Michigan band. So as I've been able to tell some folks in Southwest Michigan, just to be able to do that is really unusual for someone from a small town like that. So it's a very unique experience. It was an honor and just an amazing experience and something that's really stuck with me. So part of the philanthropy effort for me has been looking for honestly a platform in a way to share my story. So to reach kids, to be able to let them know what my experience was like, and just to encourage them and inspire them to chase their dreams, whatever they are. So there can be a lot of intimidation being from a small town that doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of resources. You don't really see those possibilities of going to some bigger schools and chasing some bigger things, but just to let kids know that it can be possible. So I haven't done it much, and I don't know that I will, but just going around to some different small high schools and just letting kids know that I was sitting in those seats where they were. I was able to do some really cool things. So that's some of what I was looking to do just in thinking about philanthropy. I ended up starting a scholarship through the Berrien Community Foundation. So just looking at different places, and this is what I mean, where it's really important to think about what it is that you want to do and to really make sure that you have a partnership. So I'm very fortunate. I feel like I had that at the Berrien Community Foundation. They're very good people there. They work their tails off to do all the good things that they do. They're collaborative, they're community engaged, and I am confident that the money and the funds that I give are going to the cause that it is intended. So I was able to endow a scholarship. So it's the Rodney Weir Marching Band Scholarship that goes to a high school student that is going into college band. So a high school student from Berrien County that's looking to go to any college, wherever that could be. So many of the recipients, I believe we gave out the first award in 2017. There were a couple of years that we took off, with the pandemic and some of the things that were going on. Many of the recipients have ended up going to Western Michigan, which is where I'm currently employed. So that's a very cool thing, just to have the connection that I have to that band program, to be able to go and see some of the recipients. And, I've been able to make some really nice connections there. So a shout out to Dr. Trey Harris, who is the band director. He's been very open, very willing to work with me. We've actually done some different projects together, but that's a whole nother story. So the recipients have gone to bands in Michigan. So the University of Michigan has had a couple of recipients, and I'm blanking if there's any others. So, it's a very new scholarship, and certainly there could be cases of high school students and kids going to places out of state. That just hasn't happened yet. But, just encouraging kids to take that step. It can be intimidating thinking about going into a college marching band with everything that's included in that. But, just giving kids that encouragement to let them know that they can do it. And some people that have come before them have taken that chance and it's worked out really well. So just to be able to share that. So I've already conveyed, just how fortunate I feel having the partner that I do in Berrien Community Foundation. It's a really good relationship. They, from the first moment, they've been really committed to making sure that they listen to me, they understand what it is that I'm looking to do, and they've been patient. There's a learning curve with starting a scholarship, raising the funds, and they've been just an amazing partner to get this started. So these are all things that are important as you think about, those of you that are out there thinking about some of the things that you're looking to do, whatever your interests are. This is the first episode. This is a chance for me to share my story. You're going to be hearing from, and this is going to be the wonderful thing about this podcast, you're going to be hearing from a lot of different folks, people that have given, some of the reasons that they give, some of the ways that they've done it, but you're going to have a lot of different perspectives and people that are out there doing good things. So just finding out more about what makes them tick, the reasons that they're doing the amazing things that they're doing, and just finding out more about some of the philanthropy that's out there. So one of the things that I've learned is that when people give, they don't talk about it, right? So people tend to be very hush hush about some of the really cool things that they're doing. So there's I don't want to say stigma, but there's there's often a hesitation. People will give money anonymously. People will do all kinds of things without looking to be in the limelight or almost to get credit for what it is that they're doing. So, not saying that I'm pulling people out of the shadows, but just giving people a platform to be able to talk about some of the amazing things that they're doing, some of what what gives them that drive, and some of the very personal reasons that they have for doing the things that they do. So some of it will be related to scholarships, to generating endowments, just looking where you might want to do that. But there's other types of ways that you can give also. So we'll have some guests on to talk about some of the things that they've done, not going through a formal foundation. There are things that you can do on your own. There's really unlimited potential to come up with an idea, to be able to take that idea and run with it and just see what you can do. So we'll have some people on that are talking about some of those things that they've done in different ways that they're involved in the philanthropic. I think that's a word. I'm not sure if I made that up, and I've been known to make words up, so I think it's a word. But just to have people talk about efforts, how they're involved in giving, how they're involved in philanthropy, and some of the amazing things that they're able to do for others. So being able to help others, having that noble desire to be able to do things for other people to make a difference in their lives, that's what this podcast is going to be all about. So it's all about empowering people, letting people share their stories, talk about the things that they're looking to do or some of the things that they have done, and not letting some of the individuals in some of the institutions that we have kind of drive what it is that your money is going to be going towards. So I think it's going to be one of the key themes, once again, of this podcast, and something that we'll talk about with some of the different guests that we have on. So I've talked a little bit about myself, some of the reasons that this podcast is coming into existence. So it's just based on what I've seen and what I've heard, that often podcasts and the whole philanthropy world is driven by people with a lot of money. So, people, I don't want to say that they don't know what to do with it, but, people often have that sense that they should be doing something. It's almost expected from people that are wealthy that they're going to be involved in the community, they're going to be giving back and helping others that aren't as fortunate. So there's ways that people that don't have those means can be involved in the efforts. And this podcast is going to try to cover what I see as a deficit, where there just isn't a whole lot of information out there for folks that don't have a whole lot of money. So this is going to be philanthropy for the common folk. That's going to be a big thing that you'll hear in this podcast, and what will be discussed. People that don't necessarily have a whole lot of funds, they want to do good, they want to be involved in some of the different ways that they can do it, they could do it, or they have done it. So that will be a big part of this. Like I said, people that are involved in philanthropy and giving back often don't want to talk about it. So, a lot of this is going to be the power of sharing stories, giving people a platform to be able to talk about themselves, to talk about their interests, to be able to capture some of those things that they experienced and to share it with a bigger audience. So, just the power of storytelling, being able to let other people know about some of the things that you've done and some of the people that you've experienced. So, so often life is about storytelling, just being able to capture some of those things and just to see what can be done with it. So, just the power of sharing stories and just seeing where that ends up taking us. I've talked already some about the process of giving. It can be as much or as little as people want to give or are able to give. So don't think that if you don't have 100,000, million, whatever it is, the money that you have can still be really impactful It doesn't have to be a huge amount. So, just being intentional with knowing the funds that you have and some of the ways that you'd be able to make an impact with other people, some of the organizations that you might be able to work with to be able to do something. So just talking about how that happens and what you can do with your idea. So the concept there being that you want to be mindful of what you have to give, the resources that you have, and what you might be able to do with those resources, how all of that will work. Some of that will be with community partners, going to different organizations. Like I mentioned before, the Barium Community Foundation has been an amazing partner for me. Just knowing what's out there for you, just being able to answer the right questions. It can be tricky. You can hit roadblocks. You can call places and not get an answer. You can, when you finally do talk to someone, just not find out a whole lot of information. So, there can be some ways to navigate that. Just to be persistent, to show some of that resolve, to know that you have an idea that's worth sharing and worth doing. That's important to know too. So just knowing that the first place that you go may not work out, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a good idea and there's not a lot of good things that can come of it. So what to give and how to give and what you can do with it. And as I've already said many times, this is not a podcast for millionaires. So this is going to be philanthropy for the common folk, for normal people. They're looking to do something good. And I'm excited to be able to share with you stories of people that have done a lot of good things, people that have done amazing things. Sometimes it just comes down to an idea, finding the right people to be able to work with, to collaborate with, to make that idea come to life. So, there's a lot of wonderful, amazing things that are happening out there. We're at a time where, there's a lot of wild news. It's not always the best news. And, just knowing that there's still good things that happen out there, I think it's important to share. So that's what this podcast is going to be about. It's going to be about sharing stories and talking about philanthropy and some of the things that you can do. I'll have guests from different areas, different avenues in the philanthropy world, some donors, some people that are working in institutions, big, small, different sizes, some of the things that they look for, some of the tips that they have, some of the things that they've seen. Those are all things that we're going to be talking about. So I'm excited to roll out the lineup that we're going to have to be able to talk to different people in Michigan. And we'll probably have some guests outside of Michigan also, just some people I know in different places in different areas, talking about philanthropy, some of the ways that they've been involved. And, just like I've also said, just that concept, big and small, just some of the bigger projects, but also some of the smaller ones, just different ways that you can get involved, the different ways you can help out. Some of it, if you're not fortunate to have a whole lot of money, some of it is fundraising, just different ways to fundraise. That might be a good way for you to get involved also. It can be tricky, but there's some ways that that might be a way that you can make your contribution to a philanthropic pursuit. So that's the first episode. It was to talk about myself, talk about just the purpose of the podcast, some of the things we're going to be looking to do, some of the discussions that we're going to have. I'm really, really excited with some of the guests that we're going to have coming on to talk about philanthropy efforts and some of the amazing things that are happening out there. So that's it for now. We will sign off, and we'll be doing this approximately every 2 weeks. We'll have a new episode coming out every 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's going to be on that kind of a cycle. So thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Rodney Weir. This is the podcast Philanrodney, and we're signing off for now. Until next time.